Join us every Sunday night at 10 o'clock and hear stories that will inspire you and could possibly change your life.
Hi, I'm Jessica Alfrey. I'm going to help you change your golf game. I'll be sharing tips that you can practice in your own backyard so you can play like a pro when you're on the course. I'll also be taking you to the hottest spots with exciting entertainment and showing you where to go to live a healthy lifestyle.
We'll take you to places you've never been before in this paradise we call home, Southern California. Restaurant owner Dodi Henry tells several amazing turning points that brought her to a new country, the perfect husband, and a chance of a lifetime. But first, local golf pro Shannon Fletcher shares some amazing turning points that saved her life and helped direct her passion to become a professional golf pro, now at Shadow Mountain Golf Course in Palm Desert.
So how does a girl that was born in Bethesda Naval Hospital end up 3,000 miles away and land in a little desert oasis called Shadow Mountain Golf Club and Shadow Mountain Resort? Well, basically it's a series of turning points. And the most traumatic and first turning point of my life was when I was 13 and I had a terrible boating accident where I was being pulled by a speedboat on a raft, and the driver made a U-turn, like cracked the whip, and I was swung way out and sideswiped a pier. There happened to be a nurse on the pier that I hit. I'm laying face down in water, mind you, unconscious. And the first little angel that was sent along my path was this nurse that pulled me out, gave me artificial respiration, rushed me to a hospital where after about 4.5 hours of surgery and about a 2% chance of ever making it through, and given last rites twice and a near-death experience, I actually came to that point, that turning point, where I somehow knew, even as a 13-year-old, that if I crossed that line, there was no coming back. And at that point, my family, the love of my mom and dad, my sister, my brother, that love pulled me back, and it just wasn't time yet for me to go past that point of no return. So I had lost a kidney and part of my spleen, and I think I was this tall my entire life, so I was a very good basketball player, and at that time, at that point in my life, I thought it was tragic that it ended my basketball career, put an end to it right then and there. However, again, the love of my father and his love for golf, he also was fighting a progressive illness, and it kept taking things away from him, but he was able to share with me golf, his love. And his love of the game and my love for him, it was our special time together. We got to play golf. And even though the disease finally took him, he left me with my path, my calling, my love. And as, again, little angels are scattered amongst your path, the next angel was Dana Rader, who happens to be the president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Division right now, and she was my mentor. She was my golf coach, but she was more. She inspired me. She encouraged me. She gave me the confidence to keep going in the game that I love and the game that my father loved. And so, having gotten a college scholarship, played collegiate golf, I then went on to pursue my PGA and my LPGA teaching Class A card. I also played 1 year on the Futures Tour, and I came back to teaching. I went to teach, and I was doing north and south and north and south, and midlife crisis, I turned 40 and I'm heading to California. So I head out to California, to San Luis Obispo, and that's where I met Nancy. And Nancy had come to me for a golf lesson. And I asked her, as I do most of my students, why do you play golf? And she said, it's really a spiritual thing. And I thought, that's a different answer. So through me working with her, what evolved in 3 years of my bringing to her some of the issues that I had on tour. I can do it on the range and not on the course. I get nervous on the first tee. I feel like everybody's watching. Or I can't stand to play with so-and-so. And she would bring to me ways to deal with that. And what was happening through our dialectic is some sort of a peak experience, if you will. On tour, we would be calling it in the zone. But I started playing from that place all the time. I resided in the zone. It was me. I was the zone. And so if it worked for me, I thought, you know what? We're on to something. This is going to work for other people as well. And it's the love of what we're doing with our golf school, No Ultimates, that has no limiting factor. It has unlimitless possibilities. As a LPGA teaching pro, I've been teaching this game for over 20 years. And now, through this new perspective of No Ultimates, anyone can learn because we teach with presence. And what I've noticed is my students now come to me with this openness, this curiosity, this fun, loving quality. And their soul naturally wants to learn. Like a child, they naturally want to optimize what they can do. And because they're so open and they have no preset conditions or ideas, they are absolutely the easiest to teach. People have learned and made advances in our golf schools that has taken heretofore, I would say, 20 years. And in a 3-day golf school, they're playing golf. They're playing golf. So anyone can learn, and that's the beauty of this game. You can teach it to children to 90-year-olds. We have from 9-year-olds to 90-year-olds, and every one of them is loving it. And we can play because we have our joy is not based on results or a score, or you must hit the ball like this. It's that natural, watch this, or did you see that? So no more do we have the embarrassment factor or the critic or the judge saying you should or you oughta or don't make a fool of yourself or don't embarrass yourself. It's just that natural, fun-loving soul that wants to be better and learn. They're curious and open.
I'd like to introduce you to a new addition to Turning Point, my daughter and co-producer, Jessica Alfrey. She will be sharing golf tips and how the pros do it, all in your own backyard, so that you can play your best when you're on the course. Doing something over and over again creates a groove or a habit, whether it's good or bad. Jessica will show you every Sunday night the proper swing to form the best groove off the course, so that when you're on the course, it's easy and automatic.
The world-famous Nest in Indian Wells continues its reputation, attracting celebrities and the rich and famous, not only because of current owners Dodi and Kevin Henry, but also past owner Ted Hane. Both share their stories of the American dream.
First time I came to the United States, it was 1969, and came to visit my uncle who had a restaurant in Los Angeles. It was a famous restaurant called the Adriatic. 1974 is when I decided I was going to go back to the United States and play basketball, and I kind of signed up myself to be exchange student, and that's how I came here. Played 2 years in high school, number one, graduated in '76, and from there on I went to COD for 2 years, wanted to play basketball more, had a scholarship for UCLA, but ended up working at the restaurant for my uncle and my aunt in Rancho Mirage. It was also called the Adriatic. Well, in the beginning it wasn't easy because I didn't speak any English, and it took me about 6-7 months to get used to it. But what saved me was playing basketball and being so good that I think the kids kind of, they welcomed me, and being a star at Palm Springs High School, kind of helped everything. So I think it took about almost a year to get comfortable. And once I got comfortable, the rest of it was easy. I was a celebrity, I was a basketball player, and my doors were open to other places to go to school, but I ended up staying in COD because I wanted to help my family in the restaurant business. My family had Our Place restaurant, which is for Armando's right now. This is where I met Ted, and I took care of him over there. I served him and his family, and he always asked me, if you ever leave your family, come work for me. And I guess I took him up for that. It was in 1985 when I joined the Nest team. I was a waitress for a couple weeks, and Ted and Drew said, no, why don't you be a hostess? I think you would enjoy much better. So I did. I became a hostess in 1985 and worked for about 19 years at the Nest. Mr. Palmer used to come here in the 80s, Lee Trevino, Scott Verpling, J.J. Henry. And in 1985 is when I got married, actually, when I met Kevin. And somehow both things happened at the same time, moving to the restaurant, working for the Nest, and also marrying Kevin Henry.
The turning point for me was actually John F. Kennedy. I was excited about this president in the United States. I was also very enamored with the movie industry. I was enamored with Elvis Presley and so forth. And I felt that after the war, Europe was a little gloomy and America was on a takeoff. And I went to the embassy and asked if they had a place for me in the United States. And after about 13 months of waiting, I got a letter in the mail, and I was called to the embassy, and I got a green card to come to the United States. I was born in Switzerland, and I decided to go to America because I felt the opportunities were much greater there than in my country. And it was the truth. The first place, I worked for a Swiss pastry chef. Then I worked for a Jewish deli in Beverly Hills, and I met a few people like, Barbara Streisand and Charlton Heston and so forth. These people came to that place to buy delicatessen. And so a lot of celebrities came into that place. And so I was invited to a party at Richard Burton's, Liz Taylor. And so that's how I got a little bit in touch with the Hollywood crowd. Then I was invited to go work in the California desert. I didn't know what it was. And I was surprised to end up in Palm Springs, working as a pastry chef in a brand new hotel. And that's how my career started, in the desert. Very soon after that, I opened my first bakery in Palm Desert, in the new shopping center, the first one that we had in Palm Desert. We only had about 3,800 souls living in Palm Desert at that time. And the Swiss bakery became very busy right away. Then I opened a little Swiss cafe, and then the Swiss brasserie, and then the Swiss donut shops. And then I decided, I think in '79, to buy the Nest from the former owner, Guy Laliberté and Vicky Laliberté. He went to Switzerland, had a good time, and I took over the Nest. And it didn't take many years before I discovered Dodi. I went to a little restaurant in El Paseo, and she worked for her uncle. And I had such great service from her, and she was so jovial and friendly, I decided to steal her for my restaurant. So, and there began the story of Dodi at the Nest. And I must say I'm very proud that Dodi had all 3 children basically at the Nest. She would quickly go to the hospital, drop the baby, and come back to work. That's how devoted that girl was to us, you know. So after about 18 years of being together at the Nest, she was stolen, just like I did, by Arnold Palmer. So I had to accept that. I let her go. So she learned the corporate way of doing business. And after about 7 years, you know, the famous 7 years, I think it was over there. And it was time for her to come home back to the Nest, but not as an employee. I wanted her to fulfill her dream of owning the Nest, which has been spoken about many times during her employment. She always was kidding me. She elbowed me and says, you know, one day I'll buy the Nest from you. I said, sure, you will. And we knew that. And so when I left for Switzerland, you know, to kind of take a leave of absence from here, I had a dream. And this dream was so powerful, and I didn't want to dare to talk about it because I said everybody thinks it's gibberish. But then I said, now why? I never dream like this. And I text Dodi. About an hour later, I says, I gotta tell Dodi, never mind my fear. So I text her. I said, I just had a dream that you will be greeting people, you and Kevin, at the door. I saw it in my dream you were saying hello to people. So I got a text back within about 5 minutes. This is incredible. We are just sitting together with June at the Nest talking about this. So this was the beginning of me getting these 2 people into the Nest as quickly as possible. I mean, this was a rush job, but I wanted them to have a season. You know, this happened in August. And so there was not much time to make a transition, like such a big transition, but it worked out. They were in this business in November and started their first season. So the dream has come to be.
Living part-time in Switzerland, Ted Hane now spends his time teaching vibral acoustic therapy and healing touch.
I was a lifetime involved in feeding people goodies. I was praised for it. I was a great baker. We had wonderful goods. I had a great restaurants. We had wonderful food. But all along, I also knew that all this food and all these sweets and all that stuff, the body has to deal with it. And so I actually, while I even had the restaurant here, I got involved in therapies because the restaurant itself, it didn't satisfy my curiosity to be here forever doing what I'm doing, so I became a therapist. So I got involved in alkalizing the human body. I got involved in Atlas Prophylax, which is correcting the C1 on a human being and opening the voice cords and opening up the energy of the body. And so basically now I'm in Switzerland doing only that. Now Dodi takes care of the restaurant. I'm totally devoted in the healing fields. And that includes correcting your posture, the physical aspect. And now I'm also working with alkalizing water, which is made in Switzerland. And you can regulate your pH of the body much easier than eating a lot of spinach or greens. So it will help to alkalize. And I think this nation is on the brink of recognizing that they have to alkalize or they have to die. And also what I'm working with Amy Aleer together, we are using now vibroacoustic therapy called VACT, it's actually a gift from NASA and the Russian Astronautic Association. Astronauts, when they came out of space, they had a very hard time regaining their strength, regaining function of the body and the organs. And they came up with this incredible idea, which is not very old, not a very young idea. It's been known for thousands of years that sound has a healing effect on the body. So even your own voice is the greatest gift God has given you to regulate your own self. And nobody seems to get it except those that are humming and singing and chanting. They know the power of your own voice. You own yourself through your voice, and you stay alive through your breath. So basically, when I think of breathing, I think of God giving me breath to be here. And when I think of the voice, it's God's way of saying, let me hear you being here. So that's the power of the voice. So we have vibrational technology in a table, and Amy Aleer is now going to be operating this in the desert, and it's miraculous. If it helps the astronauts, why doesn't it help the common man? The sound table basically is nothing else but a loudspeaker that is embedded in a yoga mat, and you can lay on it. It's not a normal speaker, but it's called a transducer, and it's a very high quality equipment made in the United States. Everything's done in the US. And the equipment it needs is an amplifier and the software, the information, what you want to run through the mat. So you can also play your music through it. You can play frequencies, whatever. You will tell me, for instance, what's bothering you, and I can choose a frequency that will respond to your problem, and I can play music at the same time, kind of like a narcotic. In other words, you listen to music while you're being swept by the frequency through the whole body. So, and this all happens on a cellular level. So basically, vibrational sound is nothing new. It's been known to ancient people already. Most recently, I think we have known vibrational healing in a church with the big organs, all right? Or to be part of a choir. That is a healing sound. And of course, that only happens once a week, which is a pity. Sound should happen every day. And God has given you a vocal cord, so you can actually sound your own body with your own voice, and you have your own code. So if there is any sense of depression in your system, or any bothersome thoughts, patterns coming at you, you can actually go into resonance with your own voice. Instead of speaking or having a dialogue with your mind, which is futile, you never win, you just make a sound. So when thoughts come and they are too much for you, just dissolve them by going, Or if you have any spot in your body that feels it's not really alive, it doesn't respond to you, just send your sound to that part of the body which you feel is absent and call it. So people don't know what they got. You know, and in most people, the voice cords are so tight because probably as children they didn't have the opportunity to really speak out, to speak the truth, to make a noise, to make a voice, to be heard. So basically God wants us to hear ourselves, and he loves to hear us talking to him or her. So how do you do it? Less with words, but more with voice. So basically when I have a thought of gratitude, I just second it with So when something good happens to me, I always second it with a thank you. Thank you is a sound.
For more information on the guests or their businesses, call the number at the bottom of the screen. If you have a turning point that you'd like to share, please leave your name and your number. And thank you for watching.
Join us every Sunday night at 10 o'clock and hear stories that will inspire you and could possibly change your life.
Hi, I'm Jessica Alfrey. I'm going to help you change your golf game. I'll be sharing tips that you can practice in your own backyard so you can play like a pro when you're on the course. I'll also be taking you to the hottest spots with exciting entertainment and showing you where to go to live a healthy lifestyle.
We'll take you to places you've never been before in this paradise we call home, Southern California.
Fundamental difference. It's a phrase that's used a lot at Renova Solar and SunPower. It means it's not just business as usual. It means Renova worked hard to be the first nationally accredited company. It means SunPower, an American company, has more than 200 solar patents and the most advanced and efficient panels available. And it means great partners for your solar. Whether you buy or lease, Renova Solar, local, brighter, better, and fundamentally different.